Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming.
We are recording this meeting, so just be aware of that. Good morning. My name is Mary Scharf, and I am the 33rd District PTA Director of Budget and Finance. Welcome to our PTA Tax Filing Basic Training. We hope we can provide you with enough information to set your mind at ease regarding your PTA's tax filings. We will be focusing on PTAs making less than $50,000 per year, but we will answer as many questions as we can. Please make sure that you are muted during our presentation. Please ask questions in the chat. We will try to answer as many as possible during today's training. Our team today includes Flora Fazad, 33rd District PTA Tax Government Filings Consultant, Lisa Uematsu, 33rd District PTA Treasurer, and Emi Morimoto, 33rd District PTA Financial Secretary. All right, Emi's going to share some slides, and Flora will give us a quick overview of.
Good morning, everyone. This is page 3 in your handout, and I know that they're small, but we will use them, and then we could probably get some larger ones later. The annual treasurer's report is a IRS requirement. It's required to keep your tax exempt status, except we don't submit it to the IRS. We keep it on our campus and we submit it to our council. You have 3 options to prepare an annual financial report. The first one on the left is an example from the CAPTA toolkit. And you may use that one and find it in that publication. I'm going to go to the third one. That's called a UTAR, and it's been traditionally used. And you can find that form with instructions on the 33rd District website. I want to talk a little bit more about the middle one, which is a budget to actual report. The purpose of the report is to demonstrate to the IRS, should an audit be needed, to show that you're expending your funds in accordance with tax-exempt purpose and that the unit is able to live within its means. With these purposes in mind, the budget to actual report is the most useful, and it can be used to prepare taxes. Everything you need is there except, some certain items for tax preparation. It is also a report, if you're on MyPTEZ or probably any kind of financial software, a budget to actual report is common. It's kind of a canned report that's always available. So in MyPTEZ, for example, you can push the button if all your data is updated, have that report and send it in. So it requires very little preparation. Okay, for the gross receipts for funds not belonging to the unit, that needs to stay isolated, and those gross receipts would not include pass-through income or the portion of the membership that you remit to your council, because those funds do not belong to you. You're merely collecting them, passing them through, and remitting them. So that would not be included in gross receipts. But it's important to reconcile your membership pass-through accounts. If you collected money that you did not remit, that amount is reportable, because if you take out the receipts and the expenses, it should equal 0. If it doesn't equal 0, then you have to report either an under remittance, which is revenue, or an over remittance, which would be expense. Okay, going to page 4. This is the bylaws, and these numbers. This is what you will use for your governmental reporting, and it gives you the PTA number and your national PTA number, state. The IRS EIN is what they call it, and that's for your 990s. And the state filing uses the Section 4 entity number, and that's for your state filing, so 199N which is a postcard, or the 199. And then your charitable trust number will be used for your RF1, and in some cases, your TR1. And then if you're incorporated, your number will ordinarily begin with a 0. And that requires a form SI 100, and that's every other year. That's not every year, but we'll talk about that one. But all the numbers that you will need are in your bylaws. Okay. Going to the next page. And these are your federal tax filings. And we have what we call a postcard. And that's if you normally make $50,000 or less in gross revenue after deducting membership pass-through. And they say normally because they know that it fluctuates. You may make 51,000 one year, 48,000 next year. So in that case, if you take the average over the last 3 years, the current year reporting and the 2 previous years, if it's less than 150,000, then you can file a postcard, even though your current year gross revenue may be in excess of 50,000. So that's one way to use the postcard. Conversely, if you filed 990 EZs before, and this year you have less than 50,000, but you're over the 150,000, like for example, the previous 2 years, it grosses like 120,000, then you'll have to file a 990 EZ. Okay. The 990 EZs are 50,000, the less than 200,000, and 990 is 200,000. We highly, highly recommend that you engage the services of a tax accountant to prepare 990 EZs. They're way more complicated. The postcards are very easy. People can do those. It's pretty easy. It takes a couple of minutes. But when you move into the 990 EZs, please engage in the services of an accountant, because we have a unit right now that forgot to check off a box for 2 years, and they're in danger of being revoked because they rejected their return because they didn't put an X in a box. Tax accountants know that, and so highly recommended. And so I think that's okay. It's talking about penalties. If your unit gets a letter from any governmental entity, please send that to your council, and then the council will share with me. That's important because while you are a tax exempt organization, you're not exempt from paying penalties. And so if you're assessed a penalty, please let us know. There's recourse for that. We can send in a letter to reduce or eliminate those fees. So if something comes, you don't know what it is, send it in, because we can help you with that. Okay. Going to the next one, and this is the state. And again, the 199N is a postcard. And by the way, the 990 EZs must be filed electronically starting this year. So we have a few units that mail them. You can't do that anymore. You have to file them electronically. And don't ignore letters from government agents. Oh, I did that, right? Okay. Okay, so yeah, and then the 199. So when you engage the services of a tax preparer, they will do the 990 EZ, the 199, and the RF1, which we're going to talk about, for one fee. And the fee usually hovers around $500–600. So that's what that is. And they'll do all 3 of those reportings for you. Okay, on page 7. And this is the RF1, it's the registration renewal form. That's what that means. And every unit files the RF1, no exception, no matter what. You need to file the RF1. And this is to the Department of Justice, so that you may retain your charitable trust status in the state of California. if you become delinquent in this filing, you may not conduct business in the state of California as a tax exempt organization. So you will pay taxes. So it's pretty important. The RF1, if you do a 990 EC, you just attach the RF to the RF1 and submit it to the Department of Justice. If you file a postcard with the IRS, then there's another report that we're going to talk about in a bit. Okay, and there's a new fee structure for the RF1. I want to make sure that you use the correct form. And you see the less than 25,000 or less than 50,000, $25, that's new. Units making 25,000 or less used to be free, but now they have to pay $25. So make sure you're using the correct form. Okay, and we're going to talk about how to fill that one out too. You see the website there down at the bottom. That is the capital website for their tax filing center, and any forms that you need, raffle, anything, RF1, 990 ins, 990s, those can be found on that website. So you may go to that website and they'll have them all listed, and they will have a link and send you to the proper website to get those forms. Okay. Also, as far as Department of Justice is concerned, they have a major backlog. This is just like a preview of coming attractions. They have a major backlog, but Donna, Our Lady in Sacramento, is going to send me a new list at the end of this week. They're having a major update tonight. I went on the website and they're down from tonight at 6 o'clock till tomorrow morning at 7. So this would seem to indicate there's some kind of major update. So I'm hoping that they have caught up with their backlog, fingers crossed. So I'm promised a new report at the end of this week. So if there's any delinquencies and stuff, I'll be in touch. Okay. And page 8. This is the form that's required to be attached to the RF1 if you filed a postcard with the IRS. In other words, $50,000 or less. There's a video we're going to show on how to fill this out, but there seems to be a major disconnect between what they call the balance sheet and the revenue statement. In other words, the cash balance in the bank and what was reported on the revenue statement. Lisa, I'm not sure if I should go over that after the video. Maybe it would be more clear.
Yeah, why don't we hold off on
the
the
questions about
details.
cash, and net revenue and all that stuff, the errors that I've seen, and maybe we'll talk afterwards. Okay, cool.
So for right now, I do see that there are questions in the chat, but we're going to hold off on that for just a bit. I'm going to go ahead and share a quick poll. All righty, just to see if you guys were paying attention. We're going to go ahead and give it about 15 more seconds. Alrighty, here we go. I'm going to share the results. And Laura, you want to go ahead and?
Yeah. Okay. So which unit numbers may be found in the bylaws? The California FTB entity number, yes, that's the number you use. You file your 199 and 199N. Raffle permit, no. The raffle permit is voluntary. It's not required. So if you apply for a raffle permit with the Department of Justice, they will give you a number, a unique number to use. The California State PTA number, yes. National, yes. Council PTA number, no. The councils don't have a PTA number. The Internal Revenue Service, it's called an EIN. Yes, that's the number you will use on your 990N and 990. The Charitable Trust Number, yes, that's the one beginning with a CT, and you will use that one when you file your RF1s and CTTR1s to the Department of Justice.
Righty. So I do see that there are still questions in the chat. I think we'll save them till after this particular video.
All right, we're going to show a video now on the preparing the federal 990N. These videos are available on the California PTA website.
First things first, you're going to want to gather your materials. You should have the following items before you start. A copy of your annual financial report based on your end of the year financial review. A copy of your bylaws or the tax filing checklist from California State PTA. Know your school's complete mailing address. And know your principal officer's complete mailing address. To get to the login page, there is a direct link on the capta.org Tax Filing Support Center page, or you can Google Form 990 Electronic Filing System and click on the link in the Ready to File section. If you don't have an account already, you'll need to create one on this page. If you already have one, you'll put in your username and then click Login. Once you have your account, you're going to return to that same page and you're either going to click in with the ID Me using whatever system you chose to be your identification, or if you already had it in the system from the old IRS version, you will log in picking your site image and then a password. Either way, you will click in Sign In or Submit and go to the next page. Regardless of which credential system you chose, it does require two-step verification. They will ask you to allow them to text you a 6-digit number that you have to put into the system in order to continue. Next, it will show you your login history, all the times recently that you have logged in to file a 990 form. Click Continue. This is the starting point for all e-postcard filings. If you have to make a new postcard filing from a unit you have never used before, or you need to remove some old EINs from your postcard profile, you will click on the Manage e-Postcard Profile. If you have previously filed, you can still find them under the Manage Form 990N submissions, even if you had an old account and have decided to switch to the Real ID version, as long as you used the same email address for both of them. They have updated it to the Manage Form 990N submission page, but when you go back to the Manage e-Postcard profile, your EIN numbers will not be saved. You will have to re-enter them even if you have done them before. If you're adding a new EIN because you've never filed for this school before, in the first box you are going to put in the first 2 digits of the EIN and then fill in the rest of the numbers in the second box. From there, you can go down and create a new filing. If you've filed before for a lot of other units, you can delete them by clicking on the Delete box and then clicking Delete EIN. Once you're on there, you select the EIN from the drop-down menu and click Continue. On this page, you're going to do your organization's details. You can only file for the current year. If you need to backfile for a previous year, contact CAPTA's Tax Filing Support Center for sites you can do that at. Did you disband or go out of business? From the drop-down, you'll say yes or no. Are your gross receipts normally $50,000 or less? Gross receipts are total receipts before expenses are deducted. You must have a 3-year average of less than $50,000 to file a postcard. Don't forget, you can deduct your membership that does not belong to you that you send up through channels at this point. All PTAs in California have the same legal name. Don't change this line. Verify that the EIN is correct and click Continue. Next, they ask for the contact info. Here's where you should be including the name of your individual PTA in the DBA section. You're going to add the mailing address of your unit, not your personal address. And if your unit has a website, you can include it in this section. Next, they ask for principal officer information. In the first box, you should specify that the name is a person, not a business's name. Your principal officer is your president or your treasurer, not the principal of your school. Fill in their home address, not the school's address, and then click Submit Filing. You will get a pop-up confirmation warning. This is just to make sure that you are 100% satisfied with what you've already input. If you are, click OK. If you need to go back and check, click Cancel. On the final page, you need to click where it says Note, print a copy of this filing for your records. You can't go back later and print the official submission copy. The best you can do later is to print the IRS page that shows information from all of your postcard filings by date. What to do next? Print a copy for your treasurer's binder. Print a copy for the secretary's book. Upload a copy into My PTEZ for storage. Present a copy at your next executive board meeting so the board is aware that taxes have been filed. It is the entire board's responsibility to make sure taxes are filed every year.
Laura, you want to address the questions that were in the chat, especially that 3-year average?
Yeah. Okay, so the rule is if you look at your gross revenue for the year you're reporting, plus the 2 years prior gross revenue that you've already reported. If that's, I mean, theoretically, 149,999 is supposed to be less than 50,000. Then you can file a postcard, even though the composition of that 150,000 may be year 1 is 48,000, year 2 is 45, and year 3 is 55. Well, if we add those up, hopefully, I don't know what it is, but if it's 150, less than 150,000, then you can do a postcard, even though you're reporting a gross in excess of 50,000 for that year, because your prior 2 years didn't add up to 100,000, let's say, for example. Okay, does that sound
Okay, and let's see, someone
the
asked
corporation number?
Yeah, the corporation number, and then also when filings are due, which we can always
Yeah.
never repeat that too much, right?
Yeah, November 15th, don't wait. You should do your audit first in case there's any errors found in the audit that may impact what you report on your returns. So you don't want to do the returns first, do your audit, find a major error, and then have to amend those 99EZs or whatever. So do your audit first and then your taxes, and it's due November 15th, but do it as soon as you can. Okay. The corporation number, I think we said that's in your bylaws, and it ordinarily, I think the FTB number begins with a 0, and it does say on the cover sheet of your bylaws if you're incorporated or not. And then Lisa, you said it was there's a corporation number in the bylaws? Yeah.
Yes.
So just check your bylaws. There's plenty of information so that you can see if you're incorporated or not. The current year, yeah. Okay, so sounds like, just for clarification, we were doing 2021 filings, correct? Yeah, we're doing 2021, 2022 is the fiscal year. And I believe they call that 2021 is the identifier number on the forms, but yes, that's correct.
Yes, so July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022.
Yeah.
And just one thing I've noticed sometimes units get incorrect. When it's asking you for a principal officer, that means a principal officer of your PTA, so either your president or your treasurer usually. It does not mean the school principal, so you don't need to be putting your school principal's information on your return. And
Okay, and this question, NPTEZ, does the total income include the cash balance forward? And this was, remember I was saying we need to clarify something after we look at the CTTR1. This is exactly what we're going to be talking about, is how the cash balance sheet is relative to the revenue statement. Because income included in the cash balance, yes. Any money received, any money dispersed is in your cash balance, which is really your bank account balance and your cash balance. But we're going to talk about that after we see the other videos, I think.
yes. Okay.
Our unit has not done an audit for, okay, so
Maybe we'll take that one offline because that's a
Yeah.
very particular issue, I think.
yeah,
Right?
and I think you're in good company because there are others, but yeah, well, just do it. Oh, wait. Well,
She was just
sorry
born
for all the
away.
questions. This is my first year as treasurer. So the gross income is the income balance that was left at June 2022 or end of fiscal year. Okay, the end of the fiscal year is June 30, 2022 that we're going to be reporting, right? So the gross income is whatever money that you made, your receipts, you know, your whatever you made as income, but you're not going to count, just not going to count the money that you collected for the memberships that does not belong to you. So for example, if your membership is $10, let's say, just for an example, only $4.95 belongs to the unit. That is your portion. $5.05, and this is when you collect them manually. Totem won't, they'll just give you the $4.95. You don't even have to worry about pass-throughs if you get your memberships on Totem. But if you get them manually, you can't deny, you can't just say, oh, okay, our unit's just going to use Totem, because this is inequitable, because some people want to pay in person, and so that should be available to them. If you collect memberships in person, getting the money, you have to send $5.05 to your council or to the district if you're out of council, because that does not belong to you. That
And
belongs to,
that number-
it's spread out to the council, the district, the state, and national.
And I think we're, Mary and I both chiming in with the same thought that it may depend on how much your council collects. And so that amount that gets forwarded from your unit may differ. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Exactly. Yes. And towards it would be $6 on
Okay.
a $10 one.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that was just an example, but
Right.
you're exactly right.
So
Okay.
just to clarify to Millie, so the gross income doesn't have anything to do necessarily with the balance. But it is the money that has come in between July 1st through June 30th. And so if you have further questions on that, then we can sort of take them offline and follow up. But I think we need to get into our next section.
Yes, in our next section, we'll be watching a video that explains how to do the state portion. When there's a federal, there's usually a state portion of the 199N for their taxes.
You'll be going to the Franchise Tax Board website to file this postcard. There is a direct link on the CAPTA.org Tax Filing Support Center page, or you can Google File California 199N Postcard. Once you're there and you have all your materials, you're going to click Start Postcard. On the login page, you're going to enter your 7-digit entity number that is in your bylaws or is on the tax filing worksheet available from your district PTA. It is the same as your franchise tax board number. It is not your EIN, but you will need that too. Type in the characters you see to verify you're not a robot, and then click Login. On the first page, you're going to verify your school name and entity number. Once you've clicked Continue, it'll take you to a page about your accounting period. Make sure you're using the correct fiscal year information for your school. Most schools in California are July 1st through June 30th. If you have old 199s to file, you can do it through this same website. You just need to adjust the fiscal year. Be aware the IRS does not allow you to backfile through their site. At the bottom of the page, it's going to ask you some questions. Are you a new unit? Have you disbanded? Did you change your fiscal year? From your annual report, round up your total gross receipts, not net, to the nearest dollar. Gross is your receipts before you've deducted expenses. Don't forget, though, you can deduct the membership not belonging to the unit that you pass up through channels. Are you refiling your taxes because something was incorrect? Then this is an amended return. No California PTA should have a 1023 or a 1024 form pending. This is for nonprofits that have not already received their 501c3 status. You already have one. You're going to click Continue at the bottom to go to the next page. The next page asks for your federal entity information. This is where you're going to be filling in that EIN number from earlier. You're going to say what your business is doing business as. For our EIN number, that is the PTA, California Congress of Parents and Teachers. It will not allow you to fill in the complete name, but you can fill in as much as possible. If you have a website, you should fill it in right now. Next, they're going to ask for your mailing address. The first part is the entity's mailing address. Give the address of your school, not your personal address. If you need to specify a department or person, you can fill it in the attention box. After you've filled in the entity's address, it asks for the principal officer's address. You have the option here of saying it's the same as the school's address, or you can fill in their home address. Either way, you're going to click Continue when you're done. The contact info refers to the person who is preparing this tax filing. Fill in the name and the phone number and click Continue. It gives you an opportunity now to review before you submit. Double check to make sure that all the information that you have put in is correct. At the bottom of the page, there is the scary thing that says perjury warning. All this is verifying that to the best of your knowledge, you are using the correct numbers for this entity and that you are telling the truth about how much money this entity made. Once you have checked the box, click Submit. Once you have submitted, you're going to get a confirmation page. Make sure you go down to the bottom and click Print. You need to have a copy of your filing because there is no searchable database of 199 forms. So if you forget to make a copy, there's no way to go back and get it later.
Alrighty, I don't see any new questions in the chat. So I'm just gonna leave it open for just a second. Does anyone have any questions about the state filing right now? Otherwise, we'll go ahead and move on to the CTTR1. Alrighty, let's move on.
This is a copy of what the CTTR1 form looks like. There is an online renewal system for the RRF1 and the CTTR1 form together, available at the website below. You must be current with the Attorney General's office to use the online system. Do not attempt to file any old forms that are missing through their system. The online system asks for the same information as the paper form does. On the California State PTA's website, under our Tax Filing Support Center, you will be able to download a file called the Annotated CTTR1 form. This will help you to fill out your unit's CTTR1 form. We will go through this step by step for this video. First, you're going to fill in the name of your PTA as it is shown on the front cover of your bylaws. Then you're going to fill in your PTA's physical address, including your city and your state of California and your zip code. Then we are going to fill in our state charity registration number. Most PTAs in California start with CT and a string of numbers. If you have an older charity registration number, the CT may be missing. However, most of us do start with CT and some numbers. Then you're going to fill in your corporation or organization number. That is your franchise tax board number or your state tax ID number, as some people call it. Finally, your federal employer ID number or your EIN. All of these numbers are available in your bylaws near the back on the numbers page. Then you're going to fill in your annual accounting period. Most PTAs go from July 1st through June 30th. If your PTA has a different fiscal year, you need to verify it with your bylaws or your tax filing worksheet mentioned on the second slide. Double check to make sure you have the correct year included when you file the form. For the next sections, you're going to need your annual financial report. I'm going to start off in the assets section. Cash is your cash on hand that you use to pay your bills. It's your checking accounts, basically. If you have more than one checking account, you add them together to get the total. If you have a savings account, it would go in this section. Most PTAs do not have investments or own land or buildings, so we will skip that for today. Your other assets can be things like your value of your spiritware inventory, or if you own popcorn machines or other kinds of equipment, you put down the estimated value of them, and it will automatically total for you your total assets. On the next column in the liabilities section, the majority of PTAs run on a cash basis, not an accrual basis. So you don't usually have liabilities such as accounts payable, salary payable, or other liabilities. So most people, this entire section will be a zero. If you do have an accrual basis, so you have accounts payable, accounts receivable, you pay salaries, consult your tax professional for help on filling out this section. However, most units that have that situation make too much money to use the CTTR1 form anyways, because this is for postcard filers only, which means you make less than $50,000 a year. It will also auto total your total liabilities and then present a fund balance, which is the total assets less your total liabilities. Your total assets will be taken from this worksheet and put onto your RRF1 form, which we discuss in a separate video, and we will touch on briefly at the end of this one. For the revenue statement section, you still need your annual financial report. We're going to start with your revenue, which is cash contributions. That is your membership dues, excluding the portions of the dues that you sent up through channels. Only the part of the membership that stays at your unit, council, or district is included in cash contributions. If you got cash donations, that is included. If you got gift cards donated to you, the value of the gift cards is included in the cash contributions. Non-cash contributions are things like water for a jogathon, items for a gift basket for an auction or a raffle. Program revenue, that's things that generate income that you consider a program. If you consider spiritware sales a program rather than a fundraiser, it would be included in here. If you sell yearbooks, if you have a family fun night that's not a fundraiser but more like a movie night and it generates incidental income, that is included in program revenue. As we said earlier, most PTAs do not have investments, so we will skip that one and go to special events. For the Attorney General's office, special events are your fundraisers. So if you have a fundraiser, if you have a raffle, if you have an auction, anything that's generating money that's not program related or cash contribution related, is probably a fundraiser. And then they have other revenue. If you generate other revenue that is something that does not fall into any of the other categories, you will be attaching an itemized list, which we will discuss on another slide. It will automatically total up your revenue for you. And then we switch over to expenses. PTAs do not compensate officers and directors. This is not a spot to put in things where you have reimbursed somebody on your board for expenses they incurred. This isn't for if you had officers that were paid for something as a salary. We also generally don't compensate staff. If you do, you should consult your tax professional about what to fill in there. Fundraising expenses, however, are any expenses related to what they call special events over on the revenue side. So if you have costs involved in your fundraising, you had to purchase items for a carnival, you had to put out mailers, you had to pay portion of a book fair if you don't consider the book fair a program. Those kind of things go in fundraising expenses. Generally, PTAs do not pay rent or utilities, so we are skipping that and going to supplies and postage. That is stuff from your administrative section of your budget, generally fall under supplies and postage, such as buying a case of paper for the PTA to use. Stamps for general PTA use, not that are specific to an event. That kind of thing is probably under supplies and postage. Anything you use for your PTA operations. Next, we go to insurance. The insurance for most people will just be that one rate that everybody pays. If you have additional costs, like you had an event that required additional insurance to be purchased, or if you're one of the units, councils, or districts that hires an independent contractor who does not carry their own workers' comp insurance, that might be included. You lump it all together for your insurance. And then finally, there's other expenses. That's basically everything else that you spend money on. Usually program, that's 99% of it, but it will need to be listed, itemized on another sheet of paper, which we will discuss in a moment. The form auto totals your expenses, and then it will tell you what your net revenue at the end is, which is your total revenue less your total expenses. The total revenue line will be used on the RRF1 form, and we will discuss that at the end of this presentation. Next, you go to supplemental information. If you answered yes to any of the questions on the RRF1, you'll need to explain them. You also need to explain other revenue from the CTTR1 form and other expenses from the CTTR1 form. You need to provide an itemized list for each of these scenarios. There is no exact format for the information. It is easiest to just do it on a Word or Google document. An example of what it might look like is on this slide. You entitle it Supplemental Information. You put your PTA's name on it. Put what the fiscal year end is. Include your government numbers. That way, if this form somehow gets separated from the other parts of the form, they will be able to track it down and put it back for you. In this sample, they did not have any other revenue, but they did have other expenses, and you'll see they listed the amount of the expense and the budget line item. You're going to transfer these items from the CTTR1 form to the RRF1. On both forms, you're going to make sure that you have the correct accounting period. The two forms must match. As we said earlier, most of you will be July 1st and then the year, and then ending June 30th of the following year. From the CTTR1 form, you're going to put the gross annual revenue. That was the total revenue from the revenue section. In our sample, it was $26,405. In our sample, we did not have any cash contributions, so we have put that as a 0. And then we go back to the asset section to come up with the total assets. So in this case, it was $88,452. On the form, we do not fill in, if you are filling out a CTTR1 form, you do not fill in the program expenses. That's what the CTTR1 form is for. It shows the program expenses. And then you just take the total expenses from the revenue section of the CTTR1 form and put it on the total expenses line.
Okay, so I don't know that there are any questions related to the CTTR1 yet in the chat. Now's a good time to throw those questions in the chat. While we're waiting, I'll go ahead and share our next interactive. Oops. And maybe that will spur on some questions. There we go. And of course, as soon as I see that all these questions show up in the chat, this is a good crowd. Okay, we'll just give this one a few more seconds and then review the results, and then we can get to the questions in the chat. Go ahead and end the poll now. Let's share those results. Okay, Flora, you ready?
I am. The first question, all PTA units must submit a CTTR1 to the California Department of Justice. No, that's false, because we had said that if you file your RF1, which you have to, and you filed a 990EZ, you attach the 990EZ to the RF1 and send that in. The CTTR1 is only required if you filed with the IRS on the postcard 990N, because the IRS doesn't ask for that information, but the Department of Justice wants that breakdown of what you spent and what you received, is to make sure that you're expending in accordance with your tax exempt purpose, etc. So no, the CTTR1 is only required for those units that filed a postcard. The prior year cash balance, 2019, 2020, is included in the cash balance figure in the current year, CTTR1. Yes, that's true. The cash balance is really your bank account. And so your bank account goes on and on. It's never closed. Your revenue and expense, you may see, that closes at year end and you start over again. Your cash balance doesn't start over. So your cash balance or your bank balance is the result of everything that you've done since 1953. It keeps going on and on. It doesn't close. So when you look at, and this is the question that came up, when you look at the revenue statement on the CTTR1, that's just for 1 year, 1 fiscal year. And so the result of that 1 fiscal year, if you collected more revenue than expense, that increases your bank balance, your cash balance at the top. And that's included in there already, because you've already posted your expenses and your revenues, and that's closed into your bank account. And that's posted on June 30, whatever year it is, 2022, this year. So I hope that's clear, because there was a lot of questions about, isn't net revenue what we have left over, and wouldn't that be your cash balance? No, no. Net revenue is your result of what you did that year only. Your cash balance is your bank balance, and it goes forever. So that was one of the main questions. And also another issue that came up from units. And I talk about these because these are things that come up questions. good questions because, you know, maybe we don't understand the relationship between the top part is the balance sheet and the bottom part's the revenue statement. And so some units were recording their cash balance as miscellaneous income in the revenue statement because they didn't want to show a negative or a loss. And that's not correct. The cash balance is in the asset, has nothing to do with your reporting of revenue and expense at the bottom of the form. Okay, so yeah, those are the two major questions.
Okay, so we have some questions that popped up in the chat. There's one that said, we had some donations of face masks and hand sanitizers. Do we put the estimated value?
Yeah, that would be non-cash contributions. What could go wrong with that when PTAs are on a cash basis of counting? How do you record non-cash contributions? We've gone a little bit back and forth with state, with CAPTA on that, and with some accountants and whatnot. And we have to understand this form is for multi-million, billion-dollar charities and us. So we're swept into this form. And so it's not really considered, you know, the small PTAs, you know, this form is for everyone. So it would be difficult to record a non-cash contribution to a unit, 2 units that are on cash basis of accounting. So there's been talk about recording a revenue and expense so that it would equal 0 and no effect on cash, because you want no effect on cash because it's non-cash. CAPTA is not, at least I'm not aware of any resolution of recording those non-cash contributions. So I would say, you know, leave it on a separate like report on Excel spreadsheet. Don't put it in your financial software at this time because it will confuse things, but you will have that information, but you do need to record that supplemental information, shall we say, on the CTTR1 and the RF1. So I know that's kind of a hard answer and stuff, but if you'll notice on the annotated RF1s and CTTR1s, they put it as 0. They didn't address if you have non-cash contributions. So it's kind of in the air a little bit.
Okay, and there's a question, what's the date range to report taxes on? And I put the answer in the chat, but let's just say it out loud.
Say it out loud. Our fiscal year is July 1st through June 30 every year. You're not allowed to change that. It is a big deal to change that. The IRS, you know, that's one of the questions on the 990N postcard. They have about 3 or 4 questions. One question is, did you change your accounting period? So we are on July 1st, in this case, July 1st, 2021 through June 30, 2022, no exceptions. Okay.
Okay, then we have several of our units receive canned food donations. Again, the non-cash stuff, which are in turn donated to our local food bank. Are the units supposed to count all those food donations or a rough estimated value? Although it's nice if they come in and go out, right?
Yeah. Well, you can record the fair market value as revenue and then record an expense, equal expense when it goes out. Like you made a donation to a charity or you know, food pantry or whoever you're giving the food to. So it's not really a cash transaction, but the important thing is that it doesn't affect cash. The cash is 0. The unfortunate thing is that the revenue will be reportable. So as income. So I would say maybe keep a separate reporting for that too. I think anything that's not cash you would be best off keeping a separate recording on that. Because for one advantage, it doesn't affect your financials. And the second thing is you're still being transparent. If the IRS comes or wants to take a look or whatever, you will have that that document, to show them. So, like I said, and I may send another email again to CAPTA. I think we should. It's been about a year. At least that we've asked, and maybe we'll get more information on that. But I know they were using accountants and trying to get information, so we can get back to you on that.
Okay, and then here's a question that comes up every year. So does the current board file the tax or the previous board?
If your previous board is still in town, they're supposed to file the taxes because the information was under their watch. They were responsible, they're intimate with the information. However, if they're not around, it would be the responsibility of the current board to do that.
So not a very satisfying answer, I admit, but
Yeah. And the question about the unit that hasn't done their audit yet, it's getting pretty close to the November 15th deadline. So we don't want to miss that deadline. If it's not possible to do an audit before preparing your taxes, I would say submit your taxes, because the chances are better that you won't change your taxes anyway. And you may incur penalties if you don't file your 990 EZ on time by November 15th, then you may incur penalties. So if it comes to a point that the audit cannot be done, do your taxes on time.
better to have to file an amendment in that
Yeah.
unlikely scenario than to incur penalties and accruing fines.
That's right.
and-
Yeah, that's right. It's the lesser of two evils, shall we say.
All righty, I think let's go ahead and go on to the next topic, and you can feel free to put in any questions still in the chat.
All right, our next video will be about the RRF1.
This is an example of what the RRF1 form looks like. There is an online renewal system available at the website below. You must be current with the Attorney General's office to use their online system. Do not attempt to file old forms through their online system. It will be rejected. The online system asks for the same information as the paper form, which we will be going over in this presentation. On the California State PTA website, we have a tax filing support center. On this page, you can find a copy of the annotated version of the RRF1 form that will enable you to fill out the one for your unit correctly. The first thing you're going to need to do is fill in the name of your PTA as it says on the front of your bylaws. If at some point in the past you have used a different name for your PTA under the same EIN number, you would fill it in here. You will put in the street address, your city, California, and your zip code, the school's phone number or your personal phone number, and an email address that you can be reached at should they have any problems with the form. If this is a change of address for this PTA, or you are filling out an amended report, you would check off the boxes here. Then you're going to fill in your identification numbers. Your state charity registration number is the CT number. It starts, for most of us, with the letter CT, although some of our older units may just have a single number. Then you're going to do your corporation or organization number. That is your franchise tax board number or your California tax ID number, as some people say it. And finally, you're going to fill in your EIN number, which is your IRS number. Then you're going to look at the table and see if you're going to have any renewal fees. That will come into play at the very end. In the second part of the form, you're going to be filling in the following information. You're going to be putting in what the accounting period was. For most of us in California, that starts on July 1st and ends on June 30th. Make sure you have the correct years filled in as well. Then you're going to be filling in your gross annual revenue. If you are filing a 990N, which is the postcard, you're going to be getting that from a different form called the CT-TR1 form. If you file a 990, it's the line 12, or if you file a 990EZ, it is line 9. On this line, we fill in non-cash contributions. That's things that you have gotten donated for you for like an auction or for a jogathon, such as water or items for gift baskets. This is just an estimate of the retail value of those items. It's not included in your annual revenue. Then you're going to list your total assets. Your total assets generally are the total of all of your bank balances at the end of the fiscal year, which for this form would be June 30th. If you have other assets, they may be included in here. If you fill out the 990N postcard, you will be leaving the program expenses line blank. If you fill out the 990 or the 990EZ, you will look through the instructions that are provided and add your program expenses on this line. And finally, your total expenses. If you filed the 990N postcard, your total expenses will be on that form CT-TR1. Otherwise, you'll be looking at your instructions for your 990 or your 990EZ. On this section of the form, there are 9 questions that require a yes or no answer. If you answer yes to some of them, you may need to provide additional information. Number 1 is asking, during this reporting period, were there any contracts, loans, leases, or financial transactions between the organization and any officer, director, or trustee thereof, either directly or with an entity in which an officer or director or trustee had a financial interest? This is almost always a no answer and should be answered by looking at your conflict whistleblower forms, which are also a requirement under IRS regulations. During this reporting period, was there any theft, embezzlement, diversion, or misuse of the organization's charitable property or funds? This is usually a no, unless you had to file a police report for one of those incidences. During this reporting period, were any organization funds used to pay any penalties, fines, or judgments? That would be if you got a fine from the IRS or the AG or the Franchise Tax Board, or you were being sued for some reason. This is very rarely a yes answer. During this reporting period, were the services of a commercial fundraiser, fundraising council for charitable purposes, or a commercial co-venturer used? Occasionally, PTAs enter into agreements with commercial fundraising companies. These are not things like your wrapping paper fundraiser or a cookie dough fundraiser. These are specifically fundraisers that have a person going out and raising funds on your behalf, and then they may take a flat fee or a percentage of the donations. During this reporting period, did the organization receive any governmental funding? Most PTAs, that is always a no. During this reporting period, did the organization hold a raffle for charitable purposes? If you held a raffle, you need to make sure you have a raffle registration and have sent in your raffle report. And you may, in addition, be asked for the dates of the raffle and what the proceeds were. Does the organization conduct a vehicle donation program? That is, generally speaking, a no for PTAs. Did the organization conduct an independent audit and prepare audited financial statements in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles for this reporting period? For most PTAs, that is a no. Our audit is actually a financial review and is not done under what is called GAAP procedures or principles. Unless you paid somebody, and it's generally a large amount of money to pay one, to have an audit done for some reason, the answer should be no. At the end of this reporting period, did the organization hold restricted net assets while reporting negative unrestricted net assets? That should be a no from most PTAs. We generally don't hold restricted net assets because we are on a cash basis and we do not have a accounting system that would allow for that.
All righty. Let's see, for questions in the chat. Bill makes the excellent observation about how would we not have a renewal fee for the RRF1? Every revenue category has a fee associated with it on my form. And yes, this video clip from CAPTA was actually recorded a while back before they increased the fees. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that our CAPTA treasurer is aware of that, because she may get some confused questions about that. So yes, everyone is going to have a renewal fee.
Yeah. Can the council auditor complete and sign off on the council audits? Yes. If you don't have an auditor, then you need to consult with your council auditor. If you do have an auditor, but they're not qualified and you don't have a review committee, the council auditor may fill that role as the review committee also. So if you don't have an audit done, you should be in communication with your council auditor.
And actually, I'm going to ask Tracy if you want to unmute yourself to, I'm not sure if we're addressing your question correctly or not. She's saying that she got it. Okay, good. Are there any more questions regarding the RRF1? Okay. Well, if you come up with any questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat. I think we can move on to the next section of slides.
Okay, that's me. So we already talked about identifying if your unit is incorporated or not. If it's incorporated, there is a form that has to be filed, and it's every other year, not every year. And it's just some basic information. They just want to collect a fee. So you can do this online. Even I've done it. So it's pretty easy, and it's $20. And it's just pretty much asking for addresses and names and whatnot. So that's pretty easy to do. Yeah, but it's also equally easy to forget because it's every other year. So you want to make a note of that, because they don't really keep track of it until you're delinquent, and and then it gets troublesome. Okay, the next one is the letter of determination. And the letter of determination, this is what the president of your unit will request at this email address, lod@capta.org. And our lady up there will issue this letter of determination if you are in good standing. Good standing means that all of your taxes have been filed, all the paperwork is done, and you are in good shape. And then she will issue this letter of determination. And what's important about this is that it has information that she's going to send to you. And it's about 7 or 8 founding documents. And who among us hasn't seen heads explode when you pull up the unit EIN, it comes up California Congress of Parents and Teachers. And so this will occur at banks, fundraisers. I have an example I used before where a unit opened a bank account 38 years ago, and it was found to be incorrect this year. And so they were giving them a hard time. And one of the documents in the letter of determination is identifying that units have a separate EIN and can conduct business, even though they are not listed. Their PTA unit is listed, it's not California Congress. So it explains the relationship between the unit and the California Congress of Parents and Teachers, which is an IRS umbrella organization that they have to cover all of the California units. But I gave that item, actually everything that the LOD had, to the bank, and they were satisfied. So that's pretty important to request. And fundraisers will ask for that also. And it's good to keep it current. I would say ask for it every year, or at least every other year, to show that you're in good standing and it's current. Okay. For raffles, this is a separate registration with the Department of Justice, and I understand it's gone up to $30. And be aware that it is a multi-raffle permit for your fiscal year. So you can use it more than one time, but you're not allowed to have the sale of raffle tickets online. That is not permitted. And they're telling you to expect a 30 to 90 day turnaround. And we remember, we mentioned the Department of Justice has, some backlog and stuff. They need some time. I would suggest when you're preparing your budget, you may say, oh, we're going to have a raffle and stuff. Request the raffle permit in the beginning of the year. And it's $30. If you don't use it, you still have to make a report at the end of the year. The report at the end of the year is required to report your revenue and expense. If you didn't have a raffle, you have to file it anyway and put 0. The important thing about the raffle end of the year report is you're not allowed to expend more than 10% administrative costs on your raffle. And that is important to them. And they will follow up on that, because if you report expenses of $20 and your revenue is $100, that's in violation of the 90-10 rule. And I've seen a letter where they did address that with a unit saying, we're going to assume you didn't know the rule. If this happens the next time, we will refer you to the Attorney General. I think the referral to the Attorney General is that you won't get a raffle permit anymore. It's not like going to jail or anything like that, but they're just not going to give you, they're going to flag your unit as not being eligible for a future raffle permit. So you want to make sure that you've done that correctly. Okay. And then the next one is the Tax Filing Support Center. And just go here and you'll find all your forms that you need. They'll give you the link of where you're supposed to go. And it's just a very useful, it's very well done. They keep this up pretty well. And this will where you'll go to get information on what you need to do. Okay.
And I'm going to chime in and say this page is where you can find these videos that we've been sharing with you under the electronic filing tab that's there.
Yes.
And so there's a question about the SI 100 is every other year, even if officers change in the non-renewal year.
Yeah, it just says every other year. There's no harm in filing a form if you've changed officers. You're being transparent. If they need it, fine. If they don't need it, fine. But every other year is what is required.
So, and it's based on when your PTA was incorporated. So if you're incorporated in an even year, then it's going to come up in the even years. And that's also, the deadline is also based on the month that you were incorporated. So it's annoying because it doesn't fall in line necessarily with when all of our other government filings are due. So that's something your PTA is going to have to figure out a way of flagging that to make sure it gets done. And then
Okay,
there's
my unit was established in April 2022. Congratulations. But we did have one fundraiser at the end of the school year. So we didn't have an audit. So do I just complete the tax forms? An audit is required because you did have activity. It should be pretty quick, pretty easy since we're only reporting one fundraiser. So I would, yeah, you will need an audit in order to document that fundraiser and to make sure all the money got in the bank. You want to review that fundraiser in the audit to see if PTA approved policies and procedures were in place and implemented in order to conduct this fundraiser. And that's the whole point of an audit. That's fine that you had a fundraiser, but it needs to be reviewed to make sure that all the rules are being followed with respect to receipts and disbursements. So do I just complete the tax forms? Yeah, yeah, you should go ahead and complete your tax returns for 2021, 2022, which is what we were talking about. But I would definitely prepare the audit and have that on file, testifying or attesting to all the rules being followed when for that fundraiser. I'm not sure off the top. Is that usually?
yes, that's me. Yeah, so you
Okay.
can just scroll down to the very bottom.
Oh, okay.
Is the one outstanding thing.
I do know Downey is, but I
No,
was
keep
just
scrolling,
being.
keep scrolling, keep
Okay.
scrolling.
Such good information. I also wanted to address, I think it was Cynthia who said, what makes Flora so cool? Thank you. It's just born that way. Okay. What documents should we give to prove we are a nonprofit? And that's what we're talking about, the letter of determination. In that, just says letter of determination, but like I said, there is a lot of documentation, and it includes a document, I don't know, dated 1943, that gives us tax exempt status. And it's kind of fun to read these letters because they say, "Dear Madam," or they assume it's a gentleman or something like that. You know, it's kind of fun to read, and they're pretty old. But that is your tax exempt from the IRS. It shows that you are a tax exempt organization. So it's all in the LOD. Quick question. We received a check for elite membership. Is the amount our portion? So elite membership, is that what you're talking about? That you get like multiple memberships from like businesses and whatnot? And is this the council that's asking if they can keep that? Because if you're collecting elite memberships, the unit portion should go to the unit, even though the council is collecting those memberships, because they're buying membership to the unit. So I don't know if that's what you're referring to or not.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here. So does this mean, Nancy, that maybe someone, I don't know, someone from your school board or whatever got like memberships to all the units in the council, and they paid council directly for all of those memberships, and then council is sending money to you? Okay, so then, yes, that is your unit portion, but you should clarify with council just to make sure, because if they didn't attach something with it to clarify, this is your portion, this is how many members it covers, here are these people that now are your members, you probably should make sure that that's clear for your records.
You should definitely clarify with your council, because I know Torrance, up until a few years ago, we used to give the whole membership, and then you would have to resubmit the money back. And now we're only giving the unit portion, so you need to clarify with your council what they're doing.
Okay. Thank you. Who holds on to the letter of determination? Like I said, the president requests it, and I would make that copy and put it in the bylaws. So I would say the president and the treasurer, maybe the executive VP, should get that letter of determination, but I would keep at least a central copy of the bylaws, probably with the president, and include the letter of determination in there. Your fundraiser person may need it because a lot of fundraisers ask for a letter of determination, but could probably just be kept by the president and treasurer in the bylaws. It can be given if anyone asks for it. You received a check from our council.
Yes. So
Oh, is this answered?
that's
rec-
part of this whole conversation.
Oh, okay, okay.
That
Oh,
will be-
yeah, here we go. Our unit. Okay, so are we happy with that, or
I think we're
is
good.
everything okay? Okay, so I don't see anything after that, do I?
Actually, I think we'll take Sunny's question afterwards because it doesn't necessarily have to do with filings. So I'm going to go ahead and share our one last little exercise here. And in the meantime, I'll let Sunny know that, yes, this question about a corporate match donation being addressed to the California Congress is an issue that people have been asking about. So well, I will go ahead and we can touch base. If you want to stay after our presentation, then we can talk about it a little bit more. All righty, and I'll go ahead and end the
Okay.
poll and share the results. And
Okay. The PTA treasurer may request a letter of determination from CAPTA. No, that's false because we said the president has to request that letter of determination. And the lady up there, she has a pretty quick turnaround time. She's really good, so that's good for us. A raffle permit allows the unit to have an online raffle program. No, a raffle permit is a multi-raffle permit and can be conducted, but it cannot. There cannot be any online raffle sales.
And I would recommend, if you're thinking of having a raffle, there is an FAQ section in the Department of Justice's raffle section that really covers what's allowed and what's not, and it's really clear. So I would always recommend you go there just to make sure that what you have in mind is allowable. And are there any more questions? I think we'll wrap it up, but we will stay after for additional questions if anyone needs us to.
All right, thank you for joining us, and we hope that you've learned some great valuable information today. For more information about PTA tax filings and finance, you can visit our website at 33rdpta.org and California State PTA websites at capta.org. The finance team's contact information is on slide 2 of the handout. If you email 33rd District with any financial questions, please make sure you include your council's treasurer in the email. Thank you.
All right, thanks for coming, everybody.
Thank you.